Greetings, my name's Ryan. I'm a Partner Solutions Architect with Amazon Web Services. Joining me here today is Fabio from Canonical. Fabio, say hi.
Hi, I'm Fabio. I'm a Senior Staff Support Engineer with the Support Engineering team at Canonical.
Well, welcome. As always, talking about things that are important to customers. Fabio, many of my customers are utilizing Ubuntu in some fashion on AWS. Some of them are using the LTS version. Others are using the paid sort of a professional version or pro version of Ubuntu. And a lot of questions we get are, when I hit a bump in the road, when I as a customer am struggling with something, who's the best person or who's the best entity to reach out to for support? Now, obviously, AWS does provide a 24/7 support option. We have it as an additional paid for service. So most of my customers will go and buy a support offering that's linked to their AWS account. And for their non-production workloads, that is potentially a developer support. And for their production workloads, depending on the size and the nature of the business, they might go for like a business support, or they might go for a enterprise level support. But that support doesn't give them all of the whistles and bells for, say, an Ubuntu operating system. I mean, the AWS team will help them where it relates to AWS, or if it's something that we're able to help out with, we'll try. But ultimately, if a customer is running Ubuntu LTS, that's a completely open source, free operating system. Do they get support with that? What's the support model for a customer on that operating system?
Correct. So typically, when you have a critical environment running in your where you're running your workload, you would expect to get, or you would look for support from the experts, from the creators of that product.
You're talking like a bank or an airline, those sort of entities?
Any kind of entities. So any Ubuntu users on the cloud, if you would expect to get support, nobody would be better for giving you support than the people that are preparing the operating system for you, and
agreed. Yeah.
The ones that are actually building the distribution for you. So that would be Canonical. So for you to get support from Canonical, the support offering is not included in the LTS release, and it's actually also not included in the Ubuntu Pro that you get, that you may launch your instances from in the AWS cloud. So there's a difference between these two offerings, and there's a additional item that you can optionally contract directly from Canonical, which would be the support. So in the LTS release, you would basically get the packages from Universe and from the main repositories. And with Ubuntu Pro, there's additional security fixes that we provide through repositories that Ubuntu Pro entitled instances would get access to.
Now, you're talking support in the context of break fix maintenance of the applications, the components of the operating system, sort of patch management, that kind of support. What if I had an issue where I was struggling to configure an application and I wanted to talk to like a call center type support agent? Is that possible with LTS, so the non-pro version, or am I going to like a community support forum type environment?
It's possible, and this is where you would look for contracting support from Canonical directly. So that what you are describing is basically looking for ticketing support, like getting phone support, or being able to get to a support portal and opening a ticket describing your problem, your question, the issue you're facing, or what you're trying to accomplish, and how to get and getting help from experts to it. So this is basically where you would contact Canonical so that you can buy support from us, get support from us, and then you would be entitled to opening support cases with us and get help from experts that would be able to address the
So very similar to AWS, a customer would purchase a support package and they would get support for their workloads running a Canonical, and they can reach out directly. That's not sold through AWS. I'm assuming a customer needs to reach out to somebody in Canonical and purchase that support package directly.
That's correct. Then you would be encouraged to go into our website and contacting your support representative, and then you can contract, you can get support from us directly. you would receive credentials for accessing our support portal and instructions for you to be able to open a support ticket with us. And then you would have access to a team of experts that are available 24, depending on how you would like to have that contract. It could be 24/5 or 24/7. That would include weekend support over several different countries, geographies that have experts available to help you circumvent the issue that you're dealing with.
So you don't necessarily have different support tiers. It's really, do I require support for my business on a Monday to Friday, or do I have a requirement for a full 7-day 24/7 support cycle? I imagine the vast majority of customers are just going 7/24.
It makes sense, especially if you have critical environment that if something happens on the weekend, you need immediate support from somebody to assist you with that, then you would require 24/7 support. So
the 5/24, is that more sort of a non-prod development workload, sort of happening Monday to Friday type thing?
Exactly. Anything that doesn't require continuous support over the weekend. So maybe a development, a staging environment that if something breaks over the week, nobody will die if you just wait until Monday morning to resume work on this. So then you can pause on Friday and then resume working on it on Monday. But otherwise, it would be recommended for you to get the 24/7 because we provide a follow the sun model of support. So that would be continuous. So basically, if you have something critical that needs immediate attention, as long as you can continue to work with us to support your environment, then we can go over through the weekend and work on this until we can figure it out.
Now, AWS and Canonical have been partners for a very long time. The operating system's been running on AWS for many years. From an engineering standpoint, we've got a close relationship. So as AWS encounters areas of improvement, whether that is through our EC2 service team or whether we get voice of the customer around something that needs to change, AWS does have that partner relationship, and we do work with Canonical's engineering teams to, bring that voice of the customer to Canonical. Canonical address that, and that typically comes back down through the patch management, the main distribution channels that you have within the operating system itself. Is there any element that we have maybe forgotten to talk about, or things that you feel we should mention that is important to customers with regard to support?
Right. Yeah, so Canonical and AWS have a long-standing relationship, and there's a contract in place where Canonical works closely with AWS engineers to make sure that Ubuntu runs smoothly on AWS cloud. There are engagements related to support where issues, questions, requests, optimizations that would come from AWS through us would be related to the partnership, the platform engagement. So it could be anything related to how Ubuntu is generally running on AWS that could potentially affect any Ubuntu instance running on the cloud. That includes, for example, image optimization, kernel optimization. So for example, you may realize that there's a Linux-AWS kernel that runs in your Ubuntu instances. That means that it's a kernel that is customized and prepared by kernel engineers at Canonical to include all the changes that would be required for that to run smoothly on AWS cloud on your hardware. That does not mean that it includes support engagement for workload specific. So if it's something specific to a customer use case, something, for example, on how they are deploying their application or how they are using it, and they would like to have direct access to Canonical experts, then this is when they should contact us directly to get support from us.
Okay. Fabio, as always, it's a pleasure having you here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here as well.
And thank you for joining us.